The Patriots have been stripped of 2 OTAs, and Bill Belichick has been fined $50,000 as a result of off-season workout violations. So what were the violations, you ask? Well, special teams coach Joe Judge conducted special teams meetings that caused offense and defensive players to be at the facility longer than the maximum 4 hours. The CBA states that players can be at the team facility no more than 4 hours during the second phase of the voluntary off-season program. The NFLPA filed the complaint on May 4th. Time now for Carrying the Load, which is presented by the Chevy Silverado. Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal providing numerous details on the matter. The NFL noted that Belichick forwarded to all his coaches, including Judge, a reminder about the 4-hour window. The league cited the Patriots' candor and full cooperation of the Patriots, calling it noteworthy and commendable. Yeah, that's a positive there. NFL also noted no further violations after the complaint. And this is where we begin our deep dive as we bring in Patriots insiders Tommy Curran, Phil Perry, along with Sports Illustrated's Albert Breer. You can also join the conversation. We would like your gut reaction to the Patriots losing 2 OTAs because of Joe Judge's mistake. Are we talking about more Belichick incompetence and running a loose ship, bleeping Joe Judge? Those mispractices hurt, or no big deal? Go to NBCSportsBoston.com/vote to vote, or you can also scan that QR code right there. Click on Early Edition on the screen. But first, let's get into the details. Phil, I know you've talked to some people. What are you hearing? What exactly happened here?
Yeah, so what I've heard is that there was a NFLPA representative who was at Gillette Stadium on one of the days during which one of these violations occurred. So May 1st, May 2nd, May 4th. It was 3 separate occasions that these workshops occurred and players stayed longer than they were supposed to. And on one of those days, there was a PA rep who was present. And I think that's part of the reason why this comes to be and why this punishment ends up coming out. What's also been interesting to me is just to talk to people who are familiar with situations like these. So not this specific situation necessarily, but what I've been told is the PA is not necessarily, Albert, looking to hammer teams for violations like this. A short meeting, it's not contact at practice. It's not really about health and safety. Yeah. This is the kind of thing where, generally speaking, the PA would say something like, hey, guys, you stayed too late on Monday.
Knock it off.
And when you have 3 separate violations, May 1st, May 2nd, May 4th, I wonder if because of the repeat nature of this offense, that's what leads to the punishment.
Yeah, and the detail I can add to that is I had just heard that basically this was offered as like sort of a voluntary session before you get your day going. So over breakfast, the offensive and defensive players had a chance to meet with Joe Judge and go over a few things special teams-wise. Which, I mean, look, it doesn't sound like a big deal, and it actually probably isn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but the optics of it for the Patriots are terrible. A, because of the year they just had on their coaching staff, and B, because it involves one of the guys who's involved with all of that.
So if both of you are saying this is really nothing to see, it wasn't a big deal, why then is it a big deal?
Call on Tom.
Well, it's a big deal because Bill Belichick is a head coach who has said, look, we don't even go close to the envelope, the edge of the envelope. We stay far away from it. So if Bill has shared something on April 19th saying, make sure that we're on this, because 4 hours is 4 hours is 4 hours. Even if you're saying it's voluntary, as it's stated in what Greg Bedard shared, it's all voluntary. But if you're going to put something out there, it doesn't really feel voluntary if you're going to walk in with your coffee at the appointed time and somebody's going to say to you, oh, nice of you to join us. So it's important to stay away from the envelope, especially if you're the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick, which leads me to wonder, did Bill Belichick know and sign off on it? Which I doubt, because he wants to stay away from the edge of the envelope. Was he blissfully unaware? Or was Joe Judge going rogue and doing something that he thought, hey, this would be a great idea. I'm on this. I'm you know me, I'm a grinder. Which again, it's a coach who is a bit player on this team who is having a negative impact on the entire operation. He did it last year with the offense, and he's doing it now, sacrificing the entire team's opportunity to get better.
And it's for not that much benefit, right? That's right. About this specific story, that to me is a big issue. The fact that these are short meetings, and what I've been told is these workshops, they're small. It's not like a team meeting. It's not like a full special teams meeting that you might see during the year where you might have 30, 40 guys in there. This is like 10 to 12 players just to go over a couple things so that the next day when they go out onto the field, they know how to get lined up correctly. It's a very small thing to get punished over, and to be not on your P's and Q's in the way we're describing here, in such a way that it eliminates a couple of practices that you do think are important, that's an issue.
Also, globally, like you look at this, right? Like, what have the Patriots been known for over the years is how buttoned up everything, how tight the operation is. Well, like last year, like that all blew up in everybody's face. Like what they were doing on offense made it look like the whole thing was a clown show, right? And now you're just trying to get off the ground the year after that and show that that was a one-year aberration. And now you have one of the guys who was involved with all of that last year stubbing his toe. And like, to me, it's just like, it's an overall operational thing. Like, how tight is the operation right now in general if this sort of thing is happening within the walls?
So I feel like there's got to be something. There's got to be a piece of information missing here, though, because, again, it is just a meeting. It's maybe just a voluntary over breakfast kind of a thing. And they got docked 2 practices. If my memory serves, I believe it was the Jaguars who were docked only 1 practice for too much contact, which I would think would be a greater concern for the NFLPA and for players. So was this something where the NFLPA guy came in and saw this and said, hey, Patriots, knock it off, don't do it, and then somebody went back to them and said, and they checked in, and the players are like, no, this is still happening?
That I don't know. I don't know the timing of it all, but that would be, I think, a reasonable deduction. Again, I don't know if that's the case, but it would make sense, Tom, if somebody came in and said, hey, don't do this anymore. Because the PA, again, isn't looking to hammer teams on this. And this is, by the way, this is something that happens for all teams during their offseason programs. A PA rep comes and just hangs out. They hang out in the locker room. They go out to practice to make sure everything's on the up and up. And usually they leave, and there's nothing that comes of it.
Yeah, and it was the whiteboard, my understanding is, that it was written as we're having a meeting at this time, which in some way was related to alerting them. But to me, repeat offense, if you've done this multiple times, and I don't know what the history is with the Giants when they were there, it is not unusual. I think that's worth stressing as well. You mentioned the Jaguars. The Niners have done it. The Cowboys did it consecutive years and cost themselves OTAs. The Bears did it for a variety of different reasons. You can plead ignorance if you're Matt Eberflus. You can plead, I wasn't thinking about that, if you're Mike McCarthy or Kyle Shanahan. But to me, it's going 48 in a 45, not 46, and it's continuing to do it when you know a cop is there, that it results in this.
I think the other thing is the level of premeditation, too. Like, a lot of times the contact things can be like, all right, like that drill was a little over the line and you guys were mixing it up, and in the heat of the moment, X, Y, and Z happened and you guys got a little bit aggressive as coaches and players. When it's up on a whiteboard, there's a level of premeditation there that probably plays into it.
And I'd add this, Trenni, too, with Spygate, going way back, and I know it's 15 years ago and this doesn't raise to the same level, but with Spygate, you had a situation where the Patriots did not ask for clarification. Now, perhaps in Joe Judge's mind, this 20-minute meeting that was he, in his mind, felt was voluntary, and he didn't care if guys didn't come or not, he felt that that was okay because of those ramifications. But you would need to ask for clarification, which is what Bill Belichick has stressed. When we're on the line, we call, we find out. So why was that not done in this instance? And I go back to, what benefit is Joe Judge adding to the organization?
Well, and I think that's what it all comes back full circle to. Like, why take this kind of a risk for, quite frankly, maybe a facet of the game that continues to be diminished? And it also makes you wonder, like, is Bill Belichick not running a tight ship? Like, it sounds like he did his own job, but also he named Joe Judge his associate head coach. And I know that when that was explained to us, it was like, this just takes a few things off of Bill's plate. It doesn't mean anything. But he, of all people, if he is like his right-hand man, should know better. And it just feels like, again, there's like chaos behind the scenes.
I think it's because Bill really likes him, right? I mean, like, it's as simple as that. Why is he here? Bill really likes him. Bill believes in him. Bill believes in his football acumen. Bill likes what he saw from him as a special teams coach. Like, it's not that complicated to me. Why was Matt Patricia?
Is it proving to be a problem, though? Maybe.
I would listen. I would pull up a little bit short of saying that Bill should stop hiring guys that he likes. And I would say, like, in this instance, it is important for us to just keep in mind that these practices, while I think they're important, right? Big picture, like, OTAs matter. There's a reason these guys show up. Bill usually cancels one of these, and it's 4 hours of a workday. Okay, a regular season workday is 8 hours, so it's about a half a day over the course of the season that you lose. I'm not saying that to diminish the offense, but because I think the offense is indicative of some lack of attention to detail. But let's not lose sight of that, like what this actually is that they've lost here.
The reason I think it's important that they lost it is when they lost it. If you want to cancel the last 2 because you got everything buttoned down, have at it. That's great. That's the ideal. We've gotten so much done, we can cancel these last two. Instead, it's you finally get on the field, you finally have Bill O'Brien out there, you finally have an opportunity, and you have 2 practices, and then you're off from Wednesday until next week. And you have to start all over again.
I hadn't even thought of that, but like it is true that we've talked about the draft classes they struck you out on. This is in a lot of ways a developmental football team now, right? Like with the amount of young guys that they're going to be relying on in key spots, the first and second and third year guys. And so like you could make the argument that for the Patriots in particular this year, where the roster is, these actually could be more important than they have been in some other years.
And this is the time of year, Trenni, where we have been told this is where you establish who you want to be as a team. We talk about identity with the Celtics all the time. This is where you establish that stuff, what our culture is going to be, who we want to be moving forward come September, but also come January. And so to be missing, 1/5 of the optional practices is a real deal.
And that's the thing, right? Because it's not just 1 4-hour session. They've now lost 2. So now maybe you would cancel 1 over the course, but now you've lost 8 hours. You've lost a full work day. And we don't need to go down this line by line, but we made a little full screen of why these OTAs might be helpful, Bert. I mean, you've got a new offense, new offensive coordinators, 2 young quarterbacks, new offensive line coach. And it goes on and on and on. And,
I like that last one. Hundreds of new offensive line.
Hundreds of new offensive line. But you're right, it's a developmental team. And I know that you're not out there hating, but you are installing things. It's a way for new guys in particular, young players, to get a grasp of things. And you're not bringing in a ton of grizzly. You didn't go out and sign a whole bunch of experienced free agents.
We can't sit here and tell everybody how great it is to win the parking spot every year and explain how this team wins on the details and wins on the margins and all the little things matter and the extra time and the no days off and all of that different stuff, and then sit here and say this doesn't matter. They get a limited number of these, and for people that don't know, the off-season program is 9 weeks long, but there are only, I think it's 9 actual full football practices where you can go 11 on 11 and 7 on 7 that are allowed, and they lost 2 of them. So it's not nothing. It's not, you can make up for it, but it's not nothing.
Oh, you looked at me like you had something.
No, I'm punting. I think it's interesting as hell, though.
It is.
It is. I just don't know if it's indicative of Bill asleep at the switch or Joe Judge going rogue, but I'll just to reiterate, if you're looking at a player who's not contributing to the team, or if you're looking at a coach who's not contributing to the team, if you're not helping people get better, then what are you doing?
What are you doing? All right, well, most people think it's Joe bleeping Judge. 56%.
Nice comeback.
That's what you voted for. Bill is next in line. All right.